It's Femi Lambert, and I'm going to share with you guys today how to make $350,000 or $400,000 profit within a year flipping land. I've done well over $5 million worth of deals throughout my career over the last few years. Profited well over $1 million throughout my career in the last few years. And I'm going to just share with you the exact frameworks that I've used to get to that point. I've done deals where I've made 250 grand in profit, 150 grand in profit, several deals like that. And I'm just going to share with you the full framework of how to do it, how to do it consistently. So the big thing that you have to understand is that this is the biggest thing. This is not a get rich quick scheme. And unfortunately, a lot of people think that, and actually I'm gonna have a coffee or a tea or something while I'm talking to you guys. The main key framework that you need to understand is that this is not a get rich quick scheme, and it's gonna take some time, right? When you understand that and that alone, you need to put yourself on a timeline of anywhere from 6 to 12 months to be successful, right? And it may take longer than 6 months, depending on the person, depending on the kind of coaching you're getting, depending on where you're sending your marketing. It might take you a little bit longer than 6 months, and that's okay. Because here's the thing. Whenever someone sees a business model like this, they look for it to be like just so transformative that it changes them overnight, and it's not going to change you overnight. And if you think about it in comparison to, let's say, a traditional college degree, do you know how many people take out loans on college degrees and then are hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt and have not seen a single return on that college degree? So you have to be able to think about that. There are countless people throughout our history of time that have crazy student loans and will never see that money back, right? They just have to continue to pay it. You end up taking out $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 in debt, and you're only making 75 grand a year. Ridiculous. Now, with land flipping, you pay 5 figures for a program, and you see an ROI on that 5 figures you invested within 6 to 12 months. And I'm giving you guys a very conservative timeline. For many of my students, it's happened way sooner. It's happened in 2 months or 3 months or 4 months where they get their first deal. But you just have to put yourself on a longer timeline and understand it's not a get rich quick scheme. That's the first thing. It's a mindset thing. Now, the 3 pillars to actual success in this business are marketing, acquisitions, and dispositions. 2 components of that are very sales-based. 1 component of that is very presentation-based. So in all of my marketing, I present myself in the best possible way and my company in the best possible way. So that way, when a seller opens my letter, we send a 2-page letter, and we also send a multitude of other marketing templates as well. But that way, when a seller actually opens my letter, what they see is, okay, this is an actual company that's making me an actual offer on my property in so-and-so county in this state. There's an actual cash offer on here. It says who they are. I can look up their information on the internet. I can see they're a real company. I can see reviews. I've built my land flipping brand in a way that when you go to look it up, you see a Gucci or a Louis Vuitton or a Mercedes-Benz of land. That's how I built it. And that's how I teach all of my students to build their land brands, because many people just present themselves as investors as opposed to companies. When you present yourself as a company, what happens is people take you more seriously. So if you're making a $400,000 offer or a $150,000 offer, in my head, I need to know that you're actually going to perform on that as a seller. I need to know that you're going to perform on that offer. So it's just very important to realize how attainable this is for you if you really just focus and understand that you may not get rich extremely fast, but in hindsight, if you put in the work for 2 to 3 years and you're consistent with your marketing, you're consistent with your follow-ups, your conversations, all those things, you're going to be in a position where you are making 300 grand a year, 400 grand a year plus, should you choose to, right? I'm in the business of teaching people how to build land businesses and not land side hustles. This is not a side hustle. This is something that you build, an asset that you can build to the point where you know, come hell or high water, you're going to be able to make multiple six figures in profit per year. That's what I make these videos for. That's what I coach for. One of the most important things when dealing with a land business is your acquisitions and who you're speaking to. Now, if you've chosen the right markets and you've been selective with market selection as we teach, and you're in on properties where you're buying for $30,000 to $50,000 and selling for double, as long as you're talking to those kind of leads, you're going to be able to get deals. People leave a lot of deals to die just because they don't follow up on those deals and they're not consistent in their follow-up. If you're not consistent on follow-up, if you're not following up on deals, you're going to have an issue closing your deals. And you're going to have an issue closing as many deals as you'd like to close. A lot of people don't close the deals that they like to close because they simply don't follow up. I have seen so many people fail in the land business because they have a multitude of leads that just didn't sign the contract on the first try or the second try or the third try or the fourth try. I've had leads in my system for 2 years before we actually bought the property and sold it and made a profit. So you have to understand that sometimes with this, you have to be able to play the long game. It's not it's not an overnight thing. And if you're not willing to really understand every single seller profile and how they work, how they think, why they think the way they think, it's going to become difficult for you to teach your team that. It's going to be difficult for you to close more deals. With the simple skill of acquisitions, you can turn one deal into 5 deals just because you're following up properly, just because you're consistent, just because you have the negotiation skills. You can literally turn one deal into 5 different deals. And I've done that before. So on a deal where, on a mailer where that 10,000 mailers only got you 1 or 2 deals because your acquisition skills were so good, because your follow-up was so good, because your negotiations were so good, you've now gotten way more deals out of that mailer. And in understanding that, the way you get good at acquisitions is by repetition and understanding seller profiles. If you understand those 2 things, then you're going to continuously be able to get more deals under contract than the person on your left and your right. Because most people don't focus on that. Most people just think that they're having regular conversations with sellers without understanding who that person is. What can I say to them to build the rapport and trust that will get them to sell to me at the price point that I need them to sell at in order to make a profit? That's the number one question that you always need to ask yourself. Most people don't ask themselves that question, and if they get cussed out by a seller, they don't know how to neutralize the situation and still make a profit on that deal. Honestly, as long as you're sending to the right kind of markets where you're going to be netting, as I said, anywhere from $20,000 to $50,000 plus per deal, and these are markets where, primarily, excuse me, may I have some ketchup, please? Yes, thank you. Primarily rural recreational land. Honestly, that is the easiest entry point into land flipping. There's a lot less work that you have to do when dealing with rural recreational parcel of vacant land. And thank you. And hunting land will always be in demand, always. Someone is always looking for hunting land, whether it's January or December. No matter the time of the year, someone's always looking for it. If you stay in areas where it doesn't snow throughout the year, when you get to Q4, it's going to be very easy for you to close deals or sell deals, even in November, December. As long as you're mastering your marketing. And that's the biggest thing that I see. That's one of the biggest things that I see people fail at. A lot of people don't master their marketing when they go to sell a property, and a lot of people will do overlays of a property and screenshots of old photos. When you list a property on the market, you need to get the absolute best photos you possibly can. You need to capture the essence of the property. When you're selling a property, you're selling a dream to the buyer. You need to sell them on the dream that they can have whatever it is that they see on the property. So when you're selling a property, you need to think, well, what is the dream? What is the primary dream of this property? And who's the primary person that buys that? So what's the primary dream? Who's the primary person that buys that? Put it together. Now, when you ask yourself that question, that puts your chances of selling a property fast on the market. Very good, thank you. That increases them significantly. We do this so that we can do whatever we want, and we have the money and the time freedom to do whatever we want. And so when you understand that, like just how simple it is, like the things I'm bringing out to you guys are very simple things. It's very simple. You buy a property, you don't even have to use your own money, list it on the market, you sell it. You do that at volume. Once you start doing that enough, you hire a team to do it for you, and you do whatever you want to do. As I'm making this video, my team is handling deals for me. And honestly, like that's one of the most beautiful things that, like, I used to imagine that, right? I'm in a situation, I drive an AMG around, I just paid $250 to get it detailed, and I didn't even blink at that. You know, when I was 5-6 years ago, I'll be lucky to have $250 in my bank. And so that wasn't that long ago. So when you realize, oh, that's really good. Wow, that's fresh. When you realize that there are a few actions that you need to take, and take those consistently, and just make the decision that this is what I'm gonna do, your entire life could change in a matter of a couple of years. Now, I do want to talk a little bit more about data, because data is a very key component in running your land business as well. But one thing that I want you to understand is that there's not going to be too many markets where someone hasn't already sent to. And I know a lot of people worry about saturation. They try to find markets that no one's ever found. Honestly, it's not about that. It's not about saturation. It's about picking the highest quality properties that exist in the highest quality areas with the areas of the highest quality demands. Where there's demand, people will always buy. Some of my primary methods for picking really good markets, I mean, the number one and the most simple is to make sure that more properties have sold in that area in the last 6 months than have gone up for sale. Because what that means is that the demand is higher than the supply. And if the demand is higher than the supply, then I know when I enter into this market, I can take advantage of that. Because not only is the demand higher than the supply, but when I get into this market, my marketing is going to be better than the other 40 properties that are listed. And that's why we master those little things so that we can sell these properties as fast as possible. See, when you break this stuff down, you realize, oh wow, this really is that simple, and it really can be that easy for me. One of the other primary things I look for as well, I want to see properties that are selling or that have sold. I want to see multiple properties that have sold within a 6-figure range within 3 months in an area, because I also want to know how much money comes to that market. If I see properties that are selling for 200, 250, 300,000, 400,000, and these properties are selling within 3 months on the market, then I know that people that have money are continuously coming to that area for whatever reason, to hunt, to build, whatever reason. There are some very key indicators that you can use when picking markets that will allow you to sell properties consistently in that market. One of the biggest questions that I get is, well, I understand all that, but why would somebody sell their property to you for 30% or 40% or 50%? Why would they do that? And the answer is presentation and circumstance. Because I presented myself in a certain way, they're going to trust me, right? The second thing is, each and every one of these sellers that call and are even thinking about selling their property for 50, 30, 40%, they have a circumstance that's allowing them to want to sell the property for that, and they want convenience as opposed to listing the property for 3 months or 4 months. They would prefer the convenience over getting the top of the top market value, and they understand how that works. And so because of that, we're able to solve someone's problem by giving them cash, doing it quickly, and performing. They get their cash, property stayed off market, it's of no harm to them. We didn't give them any due diligence clauses or anything like that. And then we list it on the market and make our money. And many of times, it's been many times for me that the seller knew that we were going to list it on the market after we bought it from them. But because of their circumstance, they didn't care, right? And it's important to realize that you really are solving someone's problem when you buy a property from them. Because obviously they know that they can list it, but are they a master of marketing on the market how you are, how we are, how I teach? No. They're gonna use some random broker, it'll sit on the market for 2-3 years, the broker's gonna price it out and it will not sell. And I know that because it's happened to me several times where a seller comes to us after a year or so and they say, oh, this property was on the market for 2 years, the broker didn't sell it, so now I just want to get rid of it. This happens all the time. Selling property on the market is actually an art. It's actually a very advanced skill that you have to master. This is not something that people can just do. And even some of the best brokers don't actually know how to sell a property. They take terrible pictures. Their listing descriptions don't speak to anybody specifically. They don't do any showings. It's just abysmal.